put money into a savings account to keep it safe. That's the deal. No risk, no drama, just steady, responsible behavior. And yet, year after year, you're quietly getting poorer. Not because you spent too much, not because you made bad choices, but because the system is designed so savings accounts are not supposed to win. That's the uncomfortable truth. Right now, millions of people are watching prices slow down. Inflation headlines say things are cooling. Interest rates on savings accounts look higher than they were a few years ago. So the obvious question feels reasonable. Why doesn't my money finally get ahead? Why does it still feel like running on a treadmill that never stops? The answer isn't laziness, it isn't greed by banks, and it isn't bad luck. It's structural, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start simple. A savings account pays you interest. Inflation takes purchasing power away. If your interest rate is higher than inflation, you win. If it's lower, you lose. That's the story most people know, but that's not the real story. Because the system that sets savings rates and the system that creates inflation are not equal players. They don't have the same goals, and they don't move at the same speed. Imagine a thermostat in a house. Inflation is the temperature rising. Interest rates are the air conditioning. But it flows first into assets, stocks, real estate, bonds, businesses. Prices rise there first. By the time inflation reaches everyday things like food and rent, the process is already advanced. The damage is already done. Now the central bank reacts. Rates go up, slowly. Banks follow, even slower. Savings accounts are always last in line. That's the first hidden reason they can't win. They respond to inflation after it already happened. But it gets worse. Let's talk about the math everyone ignores. Inflation is an average. Your personal inflation rate is not. If inflation is reported at 5%, that doesn't mean everything went up 5%. It means some things went up 2, some went up 10, some went up 30. Guess which ones matter most? Housing, healthcare, education, insurance. The things you can't substitute, the things you can't delay. Your savings account interest is compared to a smooth average. Your expenses are not. So even when the numbers look close, the experience is brutal. Now add taxes. Interest income is taxable in most countries. Inflation losses are not deductible. So if your savings account pays 5% and inflation is 5%, you didn't break even. You lost. Quietly, legally, predictably. That's the second hidden reason. But here's the part that really explains everything. Savings accounts are not meant to grow wealth. They are meant to provide liquidity. Banks don't reward savings generously because they don't need to. Your money is already useful to them. They take your deposit and lend it out, at higher rates, with leverage. They capture the spread. You get stability. They get growth. That's not a flaw. That's the design. And central banks reinforce this design intentionally. Why? Because high real returns on cash break the system. If savings accounts reliably beat inflation, people would hold money instead of spending or investing. Economic activity would slow. Debt would become harder to sustain. Governments depend on mild inflation to function. Debt becomes easier to manage when money slowly loses value. That erosion is not accidental. It's a pressure valve. A system that punishes hoarding cash encourages movement, spending, investing, risk-taking. Savings accounts are the parking lot, not the highway. And parking lots don't pay you to stay forever. Now let's talk timelines. Look back over decades, not years. In most developed economies, real returns on cash are negative over long periods, sometimes deeply negative. There are short windows where savings accounts look attractive, usually during inflation spikes. But those windows close fast. Banks cut rates as soon as they can. Central banks push rates down to stimulate borrowing, and cash goes back to losing ground. People remember the exceptions. They forget the trend. That's why the disappointment feels personal, But it isn't. It's structural. There's also a psychological trick at play. Savings accounts show you growth. The number goes up. Inflation shows up as smaller portions, higher bills, lower options. One is visible, the other is diffuse. Your brain trusts the number it can see and ignores the value it can't. That illusion keeps people calm and compliant. Now zoom out. If savings accounts consistently lost money in real terms, why do people still use them? Because they solve a different problem. They reduce volatility. They buy time. They protect against emergencies. They trade return for certainty. And certainty has value. But here's the risk. When people mistake safety for growth, they fall behind without realizing it. They do everything right. They avoid scams. They don't speculate. They wait patiently. And the gap still widens between those who own assets and those who hold cash. That gap isn't just financial. It becomes social, political, generational. Assets inflate, wages lag, savings stall, and the system keeps moving. So when someone tells you to just save more, they're missing the point. The issue isn't effort, it's placement. Savings accounts are a tool, not a strategy. They were never designed to beat inflation consistently. They were designed to keep the system liquid and stable, while value shifts elsewhere. That's the hidden reason. Not incompetence, not conspiracy, design. And once you understand that, a harder question appears. If cash is slowly melting, and risk is the price of keeping up, how much uncertainty should an ordinary person be forced to accept just to stand still? Because that's the real tension underneath all of this. Not how to beat inflation, but why surviving it requires playing a game you never agreed to play.